Okay, hit record. Just gonna drink some water.
That water made a really cute sound. It sounded like a video game water sound from like PlayStation, like you're drinking a potion or something.
Yeah. I'm just gonna eat this banana and it'll be really funny when people clip it. Because it's shaped like a wang.
Wiener.
I want to play Final Fantasy 10-2.
Did you say 10-2?
Yeah. Oh, shit.
I didn't finish it, but it is pretty cute.
Yeah, I started playing it when I was like 14. Yeah, I've never like enjoyed the gameplay of a Final Fantasy game. I've never really had that. Although I did enjoy playing 13-2.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 13-2.
I've only beaten 2 Final Fantasy games, and they were 7 and 10, which I feel like is very basic, you know, like kind of like the big ones. But I liked both of them.
Did you like Tifa?
She was okay. She was pretty cool. She's all right. Did you get through 7?
No, I didn't play any of the earlier runs. So 10-2 was the earliest one I played. Yeah, I don't know. I played 15 and I really wanted to like that one, but it wasn't that good.
The one where the main character is like has like he looks like Sasuke and he has a trans man name.
Yeah, he's Sasuke. He's Noctis.
I'm genuinely shocked that I haven't met a trans man named Noctis.
Yeah. You will one day, I'm sure.
I'm sure I will.
You're probably just hanging out in their own crowd.
It's probably going to be like in the like nerdy goth, like the anime goth scene.
Yeah.
Like gay sex clubs in Portland.
Yeah.
That's where Noctis is, I'm sure.
Tell me more about the socialist joy idea of yours.
Oh, so the same friend who sent me that video, I was thinking, I hung out with him. He's a trans guy who's early in transition. He has like a major trauma abuse background, like a lot of trans people do. He's about 10 years older than me. Anyway, went to his house, had dinner, and we watched Dungeon Meshi, cooking in Dungeon or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Cooking in Dungeon?
I don't know.
Delicious in Dungeon.
Dungeon Meshi. Delicious. That sounds great, yeah.
And yeah. I don't know, we talked about like video games and stuff mostly, which made me remember that I used to be more into stuff like that. And the last year especially, and like increasingly like throughout the last like 2-3 years, I started abandoning like the nerd identity, because I used to be like, oh, I like anime. Oh, I play video games. That's the kind of guy I am. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm gonna wear a T-shirt with the Triforce on it. I hope that people notice and talk to me. Really, that's what I think those fucking shirts are about a lot of the time, to be honest. But yeah, like I just feel like I've kind of gradually abandoned that part of my identity, and part of me, it almost feels like partaking too much in these things is almost like immoral, because I should be putting my energy toward like building socialism, and sometimes there's almost like guilt. I'm more critical of things that, sometimes people can set it aside, and even if it's like police brutality bad, but guy with hamsters in his pants funny, they can like separate it for a second and laugh about it for a second, just like the absurdity of the situation. But for me, it's hard for me to like put it aside. It's like my ideology has kind of absorbed just a great deal of my internal preoccupations,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's wrong, maybe I'm being perceived as joyless when it really, sometimes sitting and just saying, actually, I don't really find that funny. I find that really like worrying. Like, I hope this guy's okay.
Wait, you still
like sometimes
funny?
Yeah. And I think it was one of those, like, they found it silly and absurd, which it is. Okay. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things that I am currently finding myself wrestling with as a socialist. Like, how much do I accept of certain things? Figuring that out. Especially whenever it comes to like getting along with people in society overall. Like, I mean, somebody can be pretty socially progressive, but then share a story like that to you and think that you're just going to find it funny. And it's like, to some degree, maybe you can be like, wow, that really is strange. I can see why you find some humor in that. And it's like, do I literally want to come across as somebody who doesn't find anything funny because I'm like uptight SJW? You know what I mean?
compared to you before, who would have just accepted that at face value.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So now you're like, okay, what is funny as a socialist?
Yeah. But like, I feel like it's less about what is funny because, like, I don't know, me and my socialist friends find a lot of shit to laugh about. Like, we don't have a problem finding things to laugh about. There isn't really truly an absence, but I think it's kind of like a perspective thing and like something that occasionally causes some like social friction for me. And it's usually around socially progressive liberals, you know, who don't have like the whole framework. Or maybe they like don't take it as seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes it's like you can find a person and it's like I like them and I'd like to spend time with them. But do they have like all of these pieces of my framework and do they have to? And I probably told you about this. It's like the quote that I shared from the other day, that Holocaust survivor.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find it real quick. The people ask me, what did you learn? The camp that he was held in is called Sobibor.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, what did you learn? And I think I'm only sure. Jesus Christ.
Bless you.
I think I'm only sure of one thing. Nobody knows themselves. Sometimes when somebody is really nice to me, I find myself thinking, how would he be in Sobibor? And so that is the social friction that I'm experiencing right now. I probably told you about that. But that quote kind of like spelled it out for me and helped me understand what I'm experiencing when I'm having these social problems. Because I know from a liberal's perspective, they think I'm fucking nuts when I make a big fuss about the police marching at the Pride Parade. They think I'm being psycho. They're like, I don't understand. Why are you being like this?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not justified in my mind. Like, what's happening? Why are you dying on this hill? Like they don't have the framework to understand how serious it is, right? And so there can be people in my community who respect me for being like an advocate for trans people locally. But whenever I get to a certain point, they're like, I don't understand because they don't have the framework. And so I feel this pressure where I know that I'm being perceived as like somebody who's just like, I don't know, straight up nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have the information that I have.
Mm-hmm.
About like police abolition theory and shit like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, how can I expect them to have that information? I can't.
That makes sense. I find it hard to enjoy like a lot of liberal media. So take like, I don't know, Legend of Korra, for instance. One of the bad guys was like a left-wing anarchist, and they made him sound crazy, but I was like, no, he's just right though. But
literally,
yeah,
I watched that first arc of Korra and I'm like, oh my god, this is so fucking cool. And then they just like unceremoniously blow him up and they're like, guess the problem's now gone now, and we can go back to our perfect society. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He was right.
We can go back to our corrupt monarchy.
Yeah, Oh, it's so frustrating. And they're like, no, he was crazy. And it's like, okay.
Do you want to do that actually? Let's just criticize liberal media and how it doesn't fit in.
So we have the Quora thing for an example. I feel like we'll be able to figure out other things.
Yeah, we should start with like explaining how hard it is to be like, now that we know too much about how the world works.
And it's like kind of alienating.
Yeah, it is kind of alienating, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, me and DJ were talking about it last night. And also, the other thing with being a joyless socialist is that last night when I was at the concert, it was a really, really big concert. I really could not stop myself from thinking, like I'm just consuming a product right now. Like there is no community here. There's a bunch of people here and there's no community here. I don't know anyone here, I don't see anybody signaling that they're trans or queer or socialist here. I only see like mostly white people and kind of like festival-esque clothing. The prices are obviously like really insane on like basic food items, or even like, oh, you want a bottle of water? I can't give you a cup. I can give you a bottle. It's like $6. It's wacky wild. And it's just like hard for me to not sit there and think about how like alienated every single person is from like the labor of the project of that music getting to where it was that night.
Okay, what would the alternative be, you think?
I'm not really sure. I mean, like, I know something that would like drastically improve, I think, like a sense of community among the workers would probably be a union, right? So at least that could make a difference. And I think also the very inflated prices was not just like annoying or like a financial hardship, but I just kind of took it as, like another piece of exploitation that like everybody down the line is experiencing in the process of this product, of this music getting to me. And I don't, basically what you'd be asking me is like, all right, well, how do we solve how do we get rid of capitalism? You know what I mean? And it's like it's a huge endeavor. I don't know exactly what a big concert might look like in like a socialist world or an anarchist world. I don't know. Like it'd be logistically fucking huge, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mostly, I guess, I saw how people were dressed nicely. People looked like, a lot of the people there looked like they could afford dental care and like regular haircuts. You know what I mean? It looked like middle class people and not a lot of minorities, which kind of made me feel like, I don't know if I should be here. I don't know how like welcome I am here actually, like in reality. And it made me feel like this place isn't for me. You know what I mean?
I've never been to a concert.
It wasn't made for me. It was made by people like me, minorities, people who are like economically fucking stripped, exploited. And then that money is siphoned away from these workers so that these middle-class motherfuckers can enjoy a concert. I was just sitting there like, fuck, I don't know if I belong here. It felt kind of bad.
Sad, man.
It made me want to rewatch ContraPoint's Opulence video, because I feel like I might walk away with like a little more understanding, because I feel like this might be a little related. But yeah.
That was a good video.
It's been a long time. What is that, a 3-year-old video now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I play at Opulence all the time. I love the idea of being fancy, but I'm just a poor kitty. I'm just one of the
What about
faceless.
I don't know if this is in the opulence video, but I wonder if for some people, is opulence ever like intentionally constructed from like a socialist lens? Like whenever you're doing that kind of like presentation, an opulent presentation, like I guess whenever you have like the gaudy, campy opulence, then that's like, it's not just queer camp opulence, it's also potentially like working class opulence, like a false opulence, right?
I'm just trying to think of an example. I mean, I think the best thing I can think of would be like a drag show.
Like a ball.
Yeah, kind of thing. I don't know. I feel like the working poor and opulence are just kind of diametrically opposed to one another.
I don't know, is nail polish opulent?
I've never really thought of it that way, no.
Really? I feel like it can be.
Mm-hmm. I like pastels.
Pearly, like pearlescent white nails. That seems opulent to me, especially if they're like long.
Yeah.
Not super long, but like the like almond shape they call it.
I like almonds. Almonds are expensive.
Yeah, aren't they also like really bad on the like water production?
Oh, I don't know. I've never heard of that.
Like they take absurd amounts of water to the point that it's like just bad. Like an environmental problem. That's what I heard.
Where are they getting the water, though? Because I guess that's the main thing. Because I guess if you're pumping out groundwater, that can cause, like, pit holes.
They're probably stealing it from reservations.
I mean, that would be bad.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. Have you seen that movie?
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh. Never mind. It's from the movie There Will Be Blood, and the main character, the actor is Daniel Day-Lewis, and he's like an oil guy. Like he owns a shit ton of oil, and he's insane. He's just an insane fucking like sociopathic guy, honestly. But anyway, I remember watching that movie about 6 months to a year before I could grow facial hair. And in that 6 month to 12-month period of time, it was like I could tell I was getting enough facial hair that it was like there, but not enough to actually keep. And so it started driving me crazy. But anyway, I found if you go on my Facebook, you can find so many posts from like 2022 where I'm like, where's my mustache? I want my fucking mustache. And I remember when I watched that movie, seeing Daniel Day-Lewis and his like giant, like turn of the century oil man mustache. And I just remember like being like, I wish that was mine. I want that mustache. It's kind of a socialist looking ass mustache, but he's definitely not a socialist in that movie.
Are mustaches socialist?
You know, not really, but
Yeah, they seem kind of
I
right wing to
think-
me, like a cop. Cops have mustaches.
oh yeah, if it's mustache and then like, stubble, I feel like that's pretty cop-like, especially if it's like very, very short stubble or like clean shaven. And it's sad because like I'd rather associate it with Freddie Mercury. I think that's usually what I think. I'm like, oh, that's like Freddie Mercury, but everybody else is like, he looked like a cop. And I'm like, man, but it just looks like hella gay to me. It looks like iconic 80s gay, you know?
I don't know. I feel like Freddie Mercury's kind of the exception rather than the rule here.
So what you're telling me is you have to wear a white tank top.
Yeah, I think so.
I can do that.
That's true. I've seen
then
you
I'll-
in a white tank top.
They'll think I'm doing a cosplay.
Hey, it's Freddie Mercury.
I'm a 5'2" Freddie Mercury impersonator.
It's fine. So being a socialist is alienating. Alienated.
Well, I was talking to DJ about it last night, and she said the way she describes it is like she has like systemic knowledge or like deep knowledge of some things like transphobia, like racism, like anti-Semitism, misogyny, etc. And she knows dog whistles. She is like intimately familiar. But to a lot of people, they won't know that they are repeating dog whistles. They're just saying something that they heard their mom say one time, and they love their mom very much, and they don't think their mom is a racist, TM, and they don't know. They don't know that like some small thing that they said is like linked to like a huge can of worms. Like sometimes they're just saying shit totally uncritically, totally unaware. And so like if you're a socialist, if you're somebody who's very politically aware, you can hear like a small handful of words and be like, they have cisnormativity like solidified in their brain. They may not be actively hateful to trans people. They might use my name and my pronouns, but they think that penis equals man and vagina equals lady. And they do think, even though they won't say it out loud, even though they'll act like and try to convince themselves that they don't think this way, they do think that I'm like a counterfeit guy and I'm uncomfortable around them. I don't want to be around that. I respect myself too much. And so it's like, especially if you're in a conservative area and you can just pick up on minor quirks of speech, things that people just say all the time because we live in like a cisnormative, heteronormative, white supremacist, capitalist society with like the illusion of a meritocracy on top. And a lot of people like believe this shit without thinking about it, So I think, and especially I think considering the circumstances, like being a trans socialist, a trans disabled socialist in 2024, you hear somebody say like just a tiny hint of like some kind of complacency with those horrible systems that are like beating you and your friends down, even if it's like they just found something a little bit funny and it's clear to you that they just haven't examined it. It's like, okay, I like a lot of other things about you. Is this a deal breaker now that you sent me this video about Jonathan Pancake and the gerbils in his pants? Is that going to be a deal breaker for me? I have to make the decision.
Once, I asked my sister if she thought of me as a woman, and she said, well, I think of you as a trans woman. And her point was she didn't think it counted until I got the surgery.
It's really bizarre.
Yeah, but it's really common.
I don't really understand because, like, I don't know, what do they actually, like, the question I'm trying to get down to these people is, like, what do you actually think makes a person a man or a woman, you know?
But yeah, as like you said, they were just indoctrinated into transphobic beliefs.
I really wonder also, like, is she the kind of person who thinks that, like, if you didn't change your presentation, didn't change your name, like, didn't take HRT, and then if you just got bottom surgery, then she goes, oh, now you are a woman. Like, is that what she thinks?
I don't know.
So weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? Sad, Nyan.
Like, what about if a trans guy, he like fully quote unquote transitions and he gets like phalloplasty and he's like cis passing and everything, and then he decides, actually, I'd like to be a lady. If he just, you know, he has a deep voice, he has to shave, and like, unless he gets bottom surgery again, now he has a dick. So does your sister, would she think that that they're a guy or a lady?
Yeah, I think these are just kind of the limits of the gender binary, and we should just switch to a simpler system of everyone is just whatever they say they are.
I do think it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense internally.
So maybe our topic for today is kind of broadly how being a socialist can be alienating socially, and maybe also combined with like the perception of like being joyless.
How do we bring that back to being optimistic?
Well, the thing is when I'm like resolute in my values, it gives me this sense of identity and pride that I've never had before.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that I just have to be cognizant that this is what's happening, that my values are in conflict with like the social and economic world that's surrounding me. And that's okay. And there are people like me out there that will affirm my values. And it can be really challenging sometimes. But I think ultimately you have to know that this is a struggle that you're going to, if you're a socialist, you are going to experience this, like, period. And so it's kind of a matter of finding ways to affirm your values, trying to find people like you. And I think it's ultimately kind of a story of triumph, right? To not be swayed by these immense pressures that are around you. Like, it's a miracle that socialists still exist, right?
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
That's pretty optimistic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like being an abolitionist when slavery was accepted, and you can take peace in knowing that you're on the right side of history.
John Brown did get hanged as a traitor. Like, I think he got hanged by the Union. I'm pretty sure.
That's pretty messed up.
I'm gonna double check. I want to make sure I got it.
You ever like buy stuff off Amazon and feel bad about it?
100%.
Sad, yeah.
Okay, so Virginia was a Confederate state. He was charged with treason against the Commonwealth of Virginia. This decision thrust Virginia, rather than the United States, into the role of the offended sovereign and contributed incalculably to the widening abyss between North and South. John Brown was condemned not as an enemy of the American people, but as an enemy of Virginia, and by logical extension, the Southern slaveholders. So I had it mixed up. Man, they must have like captured him and tried him.
Sad, man.
I have been thinking about John Brown and people like John Brown lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to know what you're up against. Vampire
People will
Weekend
hang
has a
us.
song. Do what?
People are gonna hang us.
Hopefully not. There's a song on Vampire Weekend's new album, and they played it last night. It's called Hope. And by the lyrics, I think it's somewhat fair to assume that the enemy they're talking about in the song is the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And the lyrics, the part, like the chorus that's repeated, is "The enemy is invincible. I hope you let it go." And you know, first thought is like, wait, is this like a counter-revolutionary song? Like, just give up? Like, what does that mean? I hope you let it go. The enemy is invincible. I hope you let it go. But the title of the song is Hope, and I don't think it's just hoping that you'll give up. I think it's you need to maintain hope. And right now your enemy is not something that you can beat. And so what you need to do is like bide your time, take care of yourself, find people like you, and see what you can do. Because I've been reading about anarcho-nihilism lately, and liberation, according to anarcho-nihilism, is not necessarily like something like an end goal, a thing that you're going to realistically achieve, but sometimes it is more like something that you do in an instant. Even if you know you're not going to win, even if you're not going to maintain like your perfect socialist, anarchist society. Sometimes liberation is when you give your trans friends some medicine that they need, you know, because you had some extra.
Yeah, I mean, the nature of existence is suffering. And this has been a constant since time immemorial.
Maybe a little bit.
Well, our species has always struggled.
Yeah, suffering and struggling is like a thing that you're going to experience and you're going to have to learn how to cope with. Like you're going to have to cope with different flavors of suffering over and over forever. And that's okay. That's just part of your life, you know? If you experience things that make you suffer, then you're going to experience suffering. That's just... There are things that you can avoid. There are things that you can do to like alleviate the suffering or avoid some suffering. But I do think being a socialist in like a capitalist, imperialist state, you're going to be doing a little bit of suffering.
Yeah. Once I was talking with my coworkers and I was like, yo, doesn't it suck that we just have to do this for like decades and then retire and then die? And then they were like, I don't want to think about that. I was like, oh, well, maybe you should think about it, buddy.
They really should. I think avoidance is a big part of the problem, right?
But like going through the suffering, it is bad, but it does make me appreciate things more. You know, like I know what a bad liberal friend is, and that makes me appreciate my good socialist friends more. I had to go through the bad liberal friends before I could get to Oliver.
Oh,
you know, and I think that colored my perception of the world. Like our friendship would be weaker if we didn't have like this shared struggle.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
Of like finding each other.
Yeah, and being, we have similar backgrounds. We're both trans people from like abusive households. And that sucked, but, at least we have each other.
This is my thing about suffering, okay? As a human being, you have a lot of feelings, you've got a lot of emotions, and emotions are not purposeless. They are very purposeful. They're not random. I actually felt like getting a lot of mental health diagnoses was very detrimental to me in a lot of ways because like I was hella gaslit when I was abused. And my feelings about my abusers would tell me were wrong. Like they were just misguided, incorrect emotions, that my emotions didn't make sense, that they were erratic reactions to the situation. Like my parents would tell me, no, that thing that happened wasn't horrible. The thing that happened was funny. It was just a little accident. It was a silly joke. It was a silly oopsie. And especially when I was a kid, I'd be like, oh, haha, okay. And so whenever you get mental health diagnoses on top of that, the implication or like maybe direct statement of a mental health diagnosis, or especially a mood disorder, is like your brain is sick and your feelings are wrong, right? And so I think it helped me a great deal to have a therapist who would repeatedly just like straight up validate everything and like I don't know, tell me that he thought that I had good judgment and maybe he would do the same in a similar situation, you know, or that maybe he has done the same. And so I'm like, finally, it used to be the case that like every time I felt some kind of negative emotion to like somebody in my life doing something, like maybe they did something mean to me, or maybe they said something that doesn't align with my values, then I would internalize, I would be like thinking, this is because of me that I'm having a problem. I have a problem with this because I'm crazy. I have a problem with this because I have PTSD. I have a problem with this because, you know, and I'd just be like shitting on myself, right? And just like, but now I realize that's not the case. You know, of course, if somebody says things that don't align with my values, it makes sense that I would have a negative reaction to that. That maybe I don't want that person in my life. If I'm feeling a negative emotion toward somebody else's behavior, like instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm being so dramatic right now," instead of saying that shit to myself, which I used to always do, you know, take a step back and think about what happened and think about myself and the things that I value and think about the way that I deserve to be treated and think about the way that I treat other people and like what's okay and what's not okay, what's respectful and what's not. And then going, yeah, you know, actually it's okay for me to not want to be around that person, you know? And I think as a socialist, you're probably going to have like significantly higher standards when it comes to ethics and like ethical behavior, political behavior. And like if somebody doesn't meet those standards, you know, we never question it whenever it comes to conservatives, right? And liberals say it too. Liberals are always reaffirming their values where they're like, if you vote for somebody who is going to take away my rights, then you're not really my friend. You're not really my family. You know, liberals are always saying that. They get it. You know, reaffirming their own values, reaffirming other people's values. And I think liberals are kind of like naive in the sense that they expect maybe that the conservative will change. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes they might change their tune a little bit and be like a little bit less bigoted or whatever. But, you know, ultimately it's viewed as reasonable whenever a liberal cuts off a conservative, especially if they're a minority, right? But whenever a leftist cuts off a liberal, I think people act a little bit, especially liberals. Man, liberals act, I suppose the person who's getting cut off always acts confused. Either they act confused or they act like, oh, you're being weird about this, or you know what I mean?
No, I'm just thinking of that one friend of yours.
Oh, you're talking about Ember?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I tell you that Ember texted me 2 days ago and they were like, oh, I was at the Pride Festival and I bought something because it reminds me of you. So I was wondering if I could swing by your house. And yeah, so we really haven't talked for like almost like getting on like 3 months maybe, right? And like one of the last interactions we had, they were like yelling at me via text. And, you know, I brought this up to a group of people that I don't know at like a little party yesterday or the day before. I was like, yeah, you know, like a friend that I had a falling out with, they wanted to like come to my house and bring me a gift. And they were like, no, maybe in a neutral space. Like that seems really weird. So even to these people that don't know me, don't know my situation, are like, it's really weird to try to go to somebody's house after you've had a falling out. Just like act like nothing bad happened. But anyway, I don't want to be friends with them.
Totally valid. Okay. I'm going to count us down from 5.